Well, joining us now from Hong Kong is Jim McCafferty, Head of Asia Equity Research at Nomura Securities. Thanks very much for being with us. So a lot of anticipation over this North-South summit. What are the benefits of this for the North, particularly on the economic front, and why are they doing this now?
I think the reason they're doing it now is that since we've had the recent leadership in Korea since 2001, we've had not much engagement with the rest of the world, apart from a meeting in Beijing about a month ago. And I think the priorities of North Korea may be changing. It may be shifting towards economic development, and for that reason, engagement with neighbouring countries makes a great deal of sense.
Is there also a sense that the continued sanctions are starting to bite now in North Korea?
Well, they are beginning to bite, and I think be mindful that North Korea historically had depended on subsidies from Russia and China, and those subsidies were largely withdrawn back in the early 1990s, and since then North Korea has had to engage in some form of communication with Western countries to try and get some form of subsidy. Now the sanctions have been in place now for over a year, and I think it's hitting quite hard, and that's the reason perhaps that they're re-engaging with other countries.
And if you're an investor in South Korea, this has got to be a good time as well, potentially, isn't it?
Well, it may be, and as a leading player in East Asia, Nomura is looking at multiple scenarios for what might happen with North Korea. Now, I think a reunification opportunity, which the market gets quite excited about, is really a very, very small probability of that happening. What we do see as a more likely scenario is that North Korea becomes perhaps subsidized or helped by Western countries, not just South Korea, but by Japan, by China, by Russia and the United States, and goes for a denuclearization option. And with that option, there might be some economic benefits that other countries can provide. And with that provision, then South Korean companies, Japanese companies, Chinese companies could be involved in some reconstruction of North Korea, which really as a country has not kept up with others in the region and is quite backward in terms of simple GDP per head mechanics.
There are obviously trade benefits to all of this between North and South. Talk about some of that.
Yeah, sure. So North Korea, you've got to be mindful in terms of the size of the economy. If you go back to the late 1970s, I think GDP per head in South Korea was at parity with North Korea. Now that's just no longer the case. North Korea as an opportunity, there were 25 million people there, so there's a sizable population, and that population could be engaged as a labour force involved in areas like textiles, for example, and getting opportunities which are currently in place in some of the ASEAN countries such as Vietnam or Myanmar. So potentially there is an opportunity for South Korean capital to merge with relatively inexpensive North Korean labour and combine in certain areas of low-cost manufacturing. That's where perhaps the opportunity is.
Jim McCafferty in Hong Kong, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.